Na 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 na. Ross queued me up for the final countdown, so I had to do it. Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's Fantasy Baseball Waiver Wire Show every Thursday at 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. I'm here as always. By the way, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner with Kasey, Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold, and Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk waiver wire pickup with you, cowboy. Guys, it's already starting up. I mean, I've been up for days. I mean, we got football starting. We got people in camps, people not showing up to camp because of contracts. We got baseball trade deadline coming up. We'll talk about that a little later. But this is like all-nighter a week for me. This is like hell week. It's unbelievable. But the Yankees picked up a pretty good outfielder recently, and I don't think Joey Gallo is going to be allowed to come to the games anymore. I think he's going to be locked out. What do you guys think?
I wish he would have been locked out months ago. Even before.
You think he's trying to open the door and they're like, his pass doesn't work. And he's like, "What, guys? What's going on?" But if you haven't heard, the Yankees got Andrew Benavides. Is that right?
Benintendi. Close.
They got Andrew Benintendi from Kansas City.
He's a Benavides.
Huge sign. That's Kansas City's best player,
isn't it?
That's Kansas City's best player easily.
Yeah. Ross got 3 out of 10 letters correct.
The first 3 or 6. But long story short, the games have just begun. I mean, that was the first shot fired, basically. And now we're going to see a lot of movement going on. And I don't know if you guys watched the Reds. I'm sure you guys did it because I'm the only Red fan here. But Luis Castillo pitched yesterday. And at the end of his pitching, after he's done in the dugout, they were just giving him hugs. And
knew he was gone.
It's kind of like when you play your last game as a senior in high school, you're just congratulating, you're congratulated, job well done. Thanks for everything you did here at the high school. I got the same feeling. So we'll talk about this later, but I'm just excited to talk about it.
No, this is a very exciting time in waiver wire baseball because it is the trade deadline. It's coming up in 2 days, or what is it? 2 days? 3 days.
3 days.
And 3 days. And I think it happens at 4 p.m. on July 31st. We've got to be paying a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of movement. But meanwhile, I just want to say this, and I'm sure this is not the direction you expect me to go, but I heard Ross say these words. We've got people in camps. And for 3 Jews, that scared the crap out of me.
You got people talking about football.
I know. No, listen, I heard that, and I was just reeling ever since.
People in camps, which is retaining
training.
The football.
I think he meant training
camps.
Listen, guys, we're all in the sports field till we say camps. We know what we're talking about.
I'm not blaming you, Ross. I'm actually just talking about my own.
I can't say the word camp anymore without thinking of the worst. Come on, wake up.
I'm sorry. I'm just too Jewish. I can't help it. Okay, Just Bob is saying, hello, gentlemen. Hello, everyone. Good to have you here. Just Bob. I believe we've seen your comments on YouTube. I think you were the one who was saying that Kasey's kind of your alter ego.
No, I don't think that was
him.
him.
A different person?
He's a big Yankee fan.
But he is a Yankee fan, so we're kindred spirits.
There's just so many Yankees fans out there. It's hard for me to keep track. Yeah, well, Just Bob, you and I think, are more the soulmate type because we were agreeing on everything.
And the Yankees just got swept by the Mets. They got swept in a 2-game series.
They were bound to have a bad few weeks.
It was going to happen at some point. Now, let's get to the
They still have a 12-game lead. We're good.
Okay, good.
Fine. Just Bob says, oh, yeah, hello, Ross. So we're going to talk about 60% and under rostership on Yahoo as usual. And, guys, we're running out of weeks here because the season is getting, once we get into August, there's not a lot of time left. You're going to be maneuvering towards the back end of those standings to get in position to win. Let's talk about pickups. Name a couple of your top pickups. Doesn't matter what position. Doesn't matter hitter or pitcher. Kasey, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll go with one hitter and one pitcher. I'm going to say, and we've talked about him before. He was actually, I think, one of my weekly pickups several months ago, and that's Jose Miranda. The guy has been awesome for the last 30 days. He's batting .375 with 21 RBIs, 5 home runs. In the past week, since the All-Star break, or the past 2 weeks, so maybe a couple games before, batting .423 with a home run, 6 runs scored, 5 RBIs, plays third base, which, as we know, is fantasy gold because there's not a lot of depth at third base. This guy might finally be living up to his potential. And then pitchers, I'm going to go with the Oakland Athletics and Cole Irvin. The guy has just been dynamite for the last month almost. In the last 2 weeks, 20 innings pitched, a 1.8 ERA, a 0.65 whip. He's not going to strike out a ton of guys, only 16 strikeouts, but he also got 3 wins in that. So if you're in a league that values wins, he's got 3 of those. If you're in a league that values quality starts, he's got 3 of those. So he can do either for you.
Nice. Ross, I'm going to get you in a second, but we have a comment coming in. This from Just Bob. He says, you play 162, can't win them all. Yankees are still a better team than the Mets. I'm totally inclined to agree with him. If that was the World Series, I'd take the Yankees every single time. Ross, give us a couple of what are you laughing at?
Just how you agree with Bob. You know what?
I can't help it when he says things that are right. What am I supposed to say?
The Yankees get swept in a 2-game series, so they're not the better team. What are you talking about? They lost.
First of all, a 2-game series. Secondly,
you can't call it a series when it's 2 games.
The Mets are the better team.
Oh my God! In any 2-game series, the Yankees are likely to split or win.
He's hitting like 550. We'll talk about him a little later when we talk about outfielders. He's like hitting like he's in a softball game. It's unbelievable. And I'll do a picture too because I'm jealous that Kasey did one. Braxton Garrett. You're saying, who the hell is Braxton Garrett? Who the hell Braxton Garrett is? He's unbelievable. He plays for Miami. He's a youngster, and he's been like just on fire. We'll talk about him, his stats a little later too. But those are my 2 really good pickups for the week.
All right, I'm gonna go very unconventional here. First of all, I don't often say a catcher, but Carson Kelly,
on fire,
is extremely valuable, and he's a catcher. So
I have him too in the catcher category, but just
but I mean, I figured I'd highlight him because he's just playing that well.
Yeah,
and my pitcher isn't even one pitcher. I think you should pick up the entire Oakland A's bullpen because we don't know who's going to close there, but somebody is. If you've got room at the back end of your roster, pick up like 4 of those guys. I mean, I'll put AJ Puck at the top.
Trevino.
Trevino's probably going to get
Dennis Eckersley.
There's Danny Jimenez.
Dave Stewart.
There's we're going really old school.
He's a starter.
Ollie Fingers. Can anyone beat that? I've gone far back. Yes, I think I've gone beyond what you guys can do.
Yeah.
Probably not. Now, we have another question coming in from Just Bob. The A's swept the Astros.
I saw that.
Who's better?
I saw that. That was unbelievable too. I mean, the last place A's swept the first place Astros. It just shows you with baseball, you never know what's going to happen. You know, with the 13-game winning streak Seattle had, and I mean, all these teams are just playing like crazy baseball. I mean, it's just I can't explain it. That's why I don't bet on it.
But listen, Just Bob just played you like a lawyer because he just turned it around on you. He said, "Are the A's better than the Astros?" And then you were like, "Absolutely not." So I think he got you there, Ross.
Well, hold on. Wait, Bob. First time. It's the first time ever the first place Mets and the first place Yankees played each other in the regular season. So, and they're both in first place. The A's aren't in first place, Bob. They're in last place. So there's a big difference between that series and the Mets and Yankees series. Let's be realistic, please.
Interesting argument. We'll continue it. Guys, we're going to jump in.
You know I'm right.
All right, we're going to jump in with catchers. Kasey, you don't even have to dignify that with a response if you don't want to. I'm going to let you start off at catcher. Obviously, I already said Carson Kelly. So
you took the big name off the list, obviously. But the other guy I have 2 others. I'm looking at Elias Diaz in Colorado. He's putting up good numbers the past couple of weeks, 476 and 10 RBIs.
Hold on.
Get that,
good? That's
to get out of the catcher position.
Those are okay.
That's pretty darn good.
Those are okay numbers. Those are Ross the Boss.
They're all right. They're all right. I'll leave the other catchers for you guys because I really think there's only 2 or 3 to pick up, and I don't want to take them all.
Ross, who do you got?
I have, first of all, Salvador Perez. I know we talked about him. Case asked me about his health. He's starting his AAA assignment this week. So if he's dropped in your league, pick him up immediately because he'll be in the majors by next week. So that's my report on him. Another guy that's like just consistent. You know, you guys picked the top 2. Cal Raleigh of Seattle, he's still hitting the past 2 weeks, in the 270s. He has a couple home runs. He's just a solid catcher. He plays 80%, 90% of the time. If you need a catcher for everyday use, he's good. But the other 2 guys are just streaking. I would pick up Diaz or I would pick up Kelly immediately if I needed a catcher, or Perez if he's dropped in your league. So do your stuff.
All right, so I'll mention just one other. This guy definitely is a streaker, but really, if you – and by the way, we know it's actually a streamer when it comes to pitchers. But on this show, we call them streakers. It's just an old thing, you know. So this guy is a guy that probably you don't want for the rest of the year. But Sean Murphy, he's playing pretty well. You could do a lot worse than him. And meanwhile, on top of it, you could feel really good. It's one of those fantasy baseball moments where you're like, I cannot believe I am rooting for the catcher of the last place Oakland A's. But here we are.
He might be traded, so you never know where he's going to end up in a week. So also the only other guy I would mention is MJ Melendez. We've talked about him a lot on the show, the rookie in Kansas City. Even if Salvador Perez comes back, he's been playing the outfield some too. They're going to find at bats for him. And if Perez comes back, I have a feeling he's coming back as a DH primarily. And Melendez is batting leadoff tonight in Yankee Stadium. So they are actually batting Melendez in a prime spot in their lineup too to score runs for you.
Good
now
point.
Batting number 2, Derek Jeeta. I just say that because you said
number 2. You have to finish with the number 2. He says
at some
then
point,
the name, then
have
number 2.
Have you guys been watching the that documentary that they have?
Not yet. I will watch it, but I haven't watched it
really. I'm not a Jeter fan like you guys, but it's really done well.
Did you see the clip from this week with Nomar Garciaparra?
Yeah, I saw it. It airs tonight.
Where Garciaparra says, like, we were the better team. We just didn't win that game. And Jeter's response is, that's what the losers always say.
Yeah, you guys have to watch it because there's so many great little nuggets in there. I can't wait to discuss with you. But
losers always say we had the better team. We just didn't win that day.
Meanwhile, I could be just me, but I feel like Derek Jeter is slowly becoming the bad guy from Bill and Ted's. Have you noticed? It looks very strange.
I haven't, but I see it.
He looks like Denomalos.
Check it out. Yes, I agree. Yes.
We got a couple comments coming in. Just Bob says Cal Raleigh is fire. He also says love
fire,
you,
Bob, but he's a above average catcher. Yes.
Now we've got some comments coming in about Jose Miranda and Kasey. You said he's kind of finally emerging, but he's still so young. He just arrived. But Groovy T says Jose Miranda has been a great pickup, and Just Bob points out Miranda 3 consecutive games with 3 hits.
Yeah.
So
obviously, the last month, I think he's a top 30 or 35 player in Yahoo Fantasy Baseball.
Yes. So. I haven't got there yet, but yes, he totally is.
So, Ross, who else would you pick up at first base?
We'll talk about the Guardians. See, I didn't say Indians. I said Guardians.
That's good because
your guy correct. Josh Naylor's hitting 308, three home runs, like 11 RBIs the past 2 weeks. He's been money. I mean, he's been hitting really well. And the guy I love in Milwaukee who's like a real streaker. This guy, you don't want to see this guy naked, but again, he's a streaker.
I really don't want to see any of them.
I don't want to see any guy naked.
I gotta be honest.
You guys, you know. But I'm just kidding, everybody. But Rowdy Tellez of Milwaukee, he has 3 home runs the past 2 weeks, 8 RBIs. He's one of these guys that just gets in these grooves, and he for like 2 weeks he'll be on fire, then he'll be cold again. So I think he might be getting hot. So you may want to pick him up for maybe a week and then drop him. But first base was not that great this week. Usually there's like 4 or 5 great ones. I just had like 2 good ones. So that's me.
Yeah, and Ross, I think you tend to be a little more week to week in your evaluation. Maybe it's because you play more head to head than we do, but like in rotisserie, I'm often looking for the long term play. But you took a lot of the guys that I was going to say. Josh Naylor was my number 1 pick. Yeah, other than Jose Miranda.
Not guys. Again, they're not guys you want to play the whole year, but right now they're kind of streaking. So if you can pick them up, have room on your roster, go for it.
Yep, we got another comment coming in. Just Bob, keep it coming. I love it. He says, drop David Peterson. DeGrom returns Tuesday. This is big ne's.
Don't drop David Peterson.
Don't drop him. Okay.
He's been pitching pretty well. They're going to need 5 starters. He'll still be there. And DeGrom got rocked a couple days last night. Gave up like 2 or 3 home runs, I believe. I mean, he got rocked.
All right, so drop DeGrom, pick up all your Oakland A's. The Mets are better than the Yankees. I'm kidding.
Don't drop Peters.
Kasey, anybody to add to the first base mix before we move on? I have one guy I'm going to mention otherwise.
First base is pretty weak, but Nathaniel Lowe has been a fairly consistent contributor throughout the season. He's not doing great the last couple weeks, only batting .250, but he's chipped in a couple home runs. Texas is going to give him chances to play, obviously, so he's not going anywhere. And then I still like Alex Kirilloff, even though he's been struggling the last couple weeks. This kid knows how to hit. He was, he's injury prone, but when he's healthy, he's proven to be productive. He's somebody you can get to and maybe keep on your roster out of the lineup until he rounds into form.
All right, I'm going to mention one other guy, which is Yuli Guril. I know he's had a terrible year, but when he gets on fire, he goes on tears. He's kind of like Rowdy Tellez, not in the home run department.
I don't think he's going to be the first baseman for the Astros next week.
What?
Interesting.
What are you talking
We'll talk about
Willis?
that in the trade. We'll talk about that at the trade deadline.
Okay, we'll leave that as a
Willis?
little nugget. We'll leave that as a little nugget. Just Bob says, I believe about David Peterson, they have him in relief. That would change the picture, would it not, Ross?
I guess.
I
mean, he was.
good.
Well, I mean,
Just Bob is doing a great job of lawyering Ross today.
But here's the thing I will say to defend Ross. Not that I think David Peterson is rosterable over
Here's your
Jake
public
DeGrom.
defender.
But with the amount of injuries you see in pitching staffs, and DeGrom's injury history, do you really trust that he's going to come back and be solid for the next 2 months? If you have Peterson on your bench or space for your bench, chances are he's going to get some starts near the end of the season.
I agree 100%.
It's a good take.
I mean, can you imagine in the playoffs, you got the Max Scherzer, and then your next guy you have to face is DeGrom. I mean, it's going to be so hard.
And then it's Bassett or Taijuan Walker,
and
who
then
are also very good.
Then the other two guys, who are they? It's Stroman.
Bassett. There's Bassett.
Walker,
there's Taijuan Walker. There's David Peterson.
I mean, Bassett, who's solid. I mean,
also you could just say Max Scherzer, Jacob DeGrom, and two bodies. You still have a great
Greg Romano.
What was it?
Romano out there and
who was it? We're going way back, but it was. I think it was back the Braves, maybe Spawn and Zane and Pray for Rain. They had two starters. As long as they would get those two to pitch, they won every game.
Okay,
so they
guys,
would always hope for rain.
To complete this argument, and if Bob doesn't agree with me, I'm disappointed. The best pitching staff I've ever seen: Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz. Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean,
but you're forgetting about Steve Avery and Denny Nagel, who were all pretty good.
I just mentioned the three because usually back then you can get away starting three guys in a series, but
it was really true. And those guys are just, I mean,
Avery was long relief. He was ready.
They were not only all Hall of Famers, they were all shoo-in Hall of Famers.
And they were all got in the same year or close to the same year. They were unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just Bob says, I'm not dropping Kirilloff. I totally agree with you. He's got a lot of talent. We're going to move on to second base, though. I'm going to start us off. There's guys I've been banging the drum on for weeks now. Should I say all three of them, guys, or would I be?
Say them quick. Let's go. Who are they? Let me guess.
Oh, impatience from Ross. I better get going.
Jorge
Mateo.
Altuve.
Jorge Mateo is one.
Okay, I have him at short, but keep going.
Okay, Gavin Lux also doing very well.
He's over.
Still not stealing bases, though. Still not stealing bases.
He's over 60%. So
you're right.
Can't mention him anymore.
That does not work. But a guy that I cannot understand why he's not over 60% is Nico Horner. I still don't understand it.
He can play. He can play like other positions too. I don't know. He's hitting over 300 the past 2 weeks. I have no idea.
It's bizarre. I don't know.
That's weird stuff.
It's weird, wild stuff. Over the last 2 weeks, Nico Horner, 86th ranked player overall, and he's been doing better before them. Now, Groovy T has a question for us about a second baseman. Jeff McNeil, droppable. Casey, what say you?
He qualifies in the outfield also, I believe. He's an on-base guy, so if you're in an on-base percentage league as opposed to a batting average league, I probably would hang on to him, but he doesn't do anything overly special. He'll score runs in bunches when the offense is going well because he gets on base. But I think I was watching the Yankees game. He was dropped to 7th in the order, 6th, 7th, or 8th in the order. And if he's down there in the batting lineup, in the batting order, I don't know if I think he's probably droppable.
All right.
Cut him immediately. He's horrible the past.
Yeah, that's actually the sign for kill him. Don't kill him.
Cut.
I'm kidding.
Cut.
Yes. Cut. Yeah, you can use it for cut. I understand. Ross, who else do you have at second base?
Cut him today. See ya.
All right. Who else do you have at second base?
Hey, Macarena. Chad Pinder of the Oakland A's. He's available in 98% of the leagues, I believe. He can play.
I don't get the segue.
We could play outfield. We could play
Macarena and Chad Pinder.
Chad Pinder the past 2 weeks, 314, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs. Not bad for a guy that's 2% owned in the leagues right now. And he can play outfield. I'd rather have Chad Pinder than McNeil right now. Pinder's been on fire. I would pick him up as a streaker. He's not. Don't save him. It's not dynasty pickup that you'll save him. No, you don't want to save this guy. But he's a guy. If you're a second baseman's weak like McNeil, pick up Pinder immediately. You mentioned Nico and Luis Urias of the Milwaukee Brewers. They play different positions, but the past 2 weeks, Casey Scheinfeld, 333, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs in 2 weeks. That's unbelievable, Casey. So yes, there are some good second basemen out there. You just got to be a little creative sometimes. But those two guys I would rather have than Mr. McNeil.
All right, Kasey, we're going to come to you in a second, but I just have to note that Ross almost became Dick Vitale there. It was exciting.
You got to call T.O., baby!
Dandy!
All right,
and he's
Kasey.
cancer-free, Dick Vitale.
Thank
goodness.
All right, Kasey, who do you have at second base? Then we've got a couple of comments I want to read out.
We named most of them. The only other guy I'm going to add is Garrett Hampson in Colorado because he plays second, short, third, and outfield. And he's batting over 350 in the last 2 weeks and has 3 stolen bases. And when I'm looking for people to plug into my lineup on the waiver wire, if it's more of those streaming types or streaking types, I want somebody who's going to contribute in those rare categories. And steals is one of the most rare categories there is.
All right, now we're getting a comment from Groovy T. He says, I dropped McNeil for Ezekiel Duran. So interesting. It's a deep league pickup. What do you guys think of Ezekiel Duran?
No relation to Roberto, right?
No,
or Duran, as far as I know.
The Red Sox, we'll talk about it a little later, but they're going to be dumping a lot of players.
No, Ezekiel Duran plays for Texas.
Oh,
You're thinking of Jaron Duran.
Oh, Jaron Duran. I'm thinking I got those mixed up.
Also not related to Roberto Duran.
Also not related.
And listen, Groovy T is saying, yeah, I'm in a deep league. Lux, Horner, Mateo, all taken. So listen, it depends on your league. If you're playing like in a 14-team league or with deep benches, you're going to need to look at guys like Ezekiel Duran. So keep bringing the knowledge.
Well, I like his versatility a lot better than McNeil because he plays 3 infield positions. It's easy to find outfielders, and that's where McNeil's versatility was. You know, he's not a power guy, I don't think. I haven't looked at his numbers closely, but he provides more speed, and I think that can always be beneficial.
It also always depends on what you need. So Just Bob is pointing out Rojas from Arizona plays everywhere if still available.
Yeah, but he's at 62% now.
He's at 62%, which is why we didn't recommend him. But still, that's 38%. A lot of people can scoop him up. Now, Chris Atwater, one of our favorite viewers, if not the favorite. We love Chris. He says, you guys get a ton right. But since y'all unanimously dropped second baseman Ketel Marte on the June 3rd.
I know.
You got to do love the show.
Chris, I traded for him. So I said drop him, and then I traded for him. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I can own it.
So let's talk. Do you guys know what his numbers were over the last month?
Marte?
Yeah. Oh, he's been on fire. I mean, he's healthy now. He's been having vision problems the past year. Again, I didn't know this. I read about it, but he's been hitting really well the past month.
288 with 6 home runs in the last month, 15 runs scored, 14 RBIs, but he's not running. And that one of the things that made him so attractive was his ability to kind of put power and speed, and he hasn't shown
it's true, but
I'd rather have his not brother Sterling and for the
Starling.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, listen, I think most people would, but point taken, Chris. Sometimes we get it wrong, and listen, we know that we're going to get something wrong as soon as I trade someone. Then we know
it's gold.
It's going to change.
Dan traded him, and then I traded for him from the guy he traded him to.
I'm hot.
That's right. All right, we got a couple more comments coming in. Groovy T says, I had Berti, but he's been out for a couple weeks. Should be back soon.
For a while.
He's been a godsend, says Groovy T, which is totally true. I mean, his stolen bases just insane.
His stolen bases have been crazy. Yeah.
Yep. Just Bob says he will be back.
Led the league in stolen bases if he was healthy. I mean, hopefully he'll get better soon. I don't know when his date he comes back. No idea.
Well, I'll check on that in a second, but Just Bob says Miami is selling. He'll be playing, and I totally agree with that. And meanwhile, Chris Atwater says Marte is a doubles machine, also top 10 easily in doubles. Don't overvalue steals, guys. It's one stat out of 29 in his league. So, yeah, it depends. That is hilarious because that's our league, actually. And there's so many stats. It's absurd.
I wonder why I'm doing so poorly. I'm not even aware of all the stats.
There's a stat for no hitter. So you're just going to get basically 0 or 1 every year. It's pretty interesting. All right, guys, let's move on to shortstop. Ross, who do you have at short that you think is one of your top?
So this guy's utility, and again, I'd rather have Joey Wendell than have Duran from Texas. Joey Wendell, the past 2 weeks, has been hitting .368 with 3 stolen bases, actually. This guy, he's when he was on Tampa Bay, he's just a utility guy, but he's hot right now. He's really hitting the ball, and he's hitting the ball with power. I like if you need a utility guy on your bench or even a shortstop, I wouldn't think twice about starting Joey Wendell right now. I think he's playing great. And I know he plays in Miami. I know it's a small market team, but you know what? He still gets his at-bats, so it doesn't really matter. And Jorge Mateo, we talked about him earlier. He could play shortstop too. And in the past 2 weeks, he's been .355 with 2 stolen bases. He's not going for power, but he's going to get you base percentage. He's going to get you batting percentage and stolen bases. So those 2 guys are my pickups for shortstop this week.
Love it. I think Joey Wendell it's a savvy call. That's the kind of player that you need to be scooping up, especially at this time of year where you need good fill-ins. Casey, who else do you have?
I don't have it. I mean, most of the players we talked about at second base also qualify at shortstop. I think
I was having the same response.
We might just consolidate that to middle infield.
Yeah, I was looking at my list. I was like Jorge Mateo, Nico Horner, Luis Urias, even Josh Rojas.
Josh Rojas is over 60%, but keep going.
That's true. That. Thank you for dinging me his second time on that. I'm going to bring him up a third time just to see if he catches it. I'm kidding. Just Bob says, good call, Ross, on Wendell. I like Wendell. He might get traded. Yankees have eyes on him. I bet that is true. That's the kind of.
It'll be a great pickup for any team. You want a guy like that can play different positions.
Listen, if the Yankees pick him up, I guarantee you he gets at least one major clutch hit in the playoffs and becomes kind of a legend. That's the way.
Look at Matt Carpenter for crying out loud.
Oh my God! Unbelievable story. Come back for the year, Matt Carpenter.
Start us off at third base, Case.
Well, I already talked about my top pickup is Jose Miranda, but. You know, he's back from the dead, and that's Johan Mankata. He's playing pretty well now in Chicago. And in the last couple of weeks, he's batting .293. He's scoring a bunch of runs. He bats near the top of their lineup. This is a guy who they traded Chris Sale to get. So the talent was never a question. You know, maybe it took him a long time to figure it out, maybe not. But right now, he's playing pretty well. So he would be my other third base pickup.
All right. Now, I know we're talking third base, but we got a question coming in about middle infield. So I'm going to back up and go to that. Chris Headwater says, sticking with middle infield, is India worth keeping at this point? What's your take on that, Ross?
Being a Reds fan, I mean, India was hurt. He came back. I mean, him and Nick Stitzel are both guys who are kind of like not playing well. I mean, I don't know if they're just...
India's playing well. You've been looking at the numbers?
I watch the games, and when they need a hit, he doesn't get a hit. I mean, he's not consistent enough for me right now. I like Jonathan India. I want to have hair like him. I want to grow my hair out like him, of course. But there's better second basemen out there. Rookie of the year last year, actually. But tell me his stats for the past 2 weeks. I'm curious just to hear him.
All right, hold on. In the past 2 weeks, he's ranked 37th in Yahoo overall.
Okay. Good.
So that's pretty good. He's got a .323 average. A .417 on base percentage, a .645 slugging percentage.
Wow.
He's 10 for 31, 3 homers, 6 RBIs.
I guess I get depressed because the Reds have that's the thing. Second and third and 2 outs.
This all just spoke to me as if this is a Reds fan evaluating this.
I know. I'm a homer with the Reds. Sorry,
I would hang on to him.
This upsets me to even talk about it. But I know they won't trade him, which is good.
Well, keepers are tricky because it depends on how many you can keep. It depends on if you have to give up a draft pick to keep him, et cetera. But Jonathan India is in the keeper conversation as far as I'm concerned.
I guess. I mean, he's not a great fantasy player, but keep going.
He's still emerging, Ross. All right. Back to third base. Ross, other players to mention. Casey mentioned Johan Mankata. Who would you have?
You know, the only other third baseman is Jamir. Help me with his last name, Case.
Candelario.
I think his first name.
He is hitting over 400 the past 2 weeks, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. He's just been on fire for the Tigers. I mean, this guy is just seeing the ball and hitting the ball hard and far. If you don't have a third baseman that's producing, or maybe somebody that's going to Canada to play that's not allowed to, that didn't get vaccinated, so they're out for a few games, it's a good pickup for you to do right now. Or if you have a guy that's not producing at all, I would pick Jamir up immediately.
Okay, now you started that phrase with I don't even know how to pronounce his first name, Jeimer Candelaria, I think. You said the only other guy to pick up. Well, Alec Baum over the last 2 weeks is hitting .484.
Wow.
Now, I mean, he's got 18 total bases, 6 RBIs, and some of those hits are going to leave the yard. And meanwhile, you're the one who owns him, so you should know this in our league. So Alec Baum, somebody down.
No, Cuban Kings own him in our league. Which league are you talking about? I'm talking about...
That's our keeper league. I'm talking about the MFSN league.
Oh, okay.
Ross owns him there.
Yeah.
Let's move to outfield, but a shout out to Nolan Jones. Just Bob noted him. I think he's a good pickup too. He's 195 in the last 2 weeks in Yahoo ranking. And Groovy T says Alec Baum is mashing but no power. True, but check for doubles. If there's a lot of doubles happening, it's a sign that the home runs are coming. But I see your point. It depends on what you need. Outfielders, guys. Ross, who do you got?
I have a California kid. Now he plays in Cleveland. Stephen Kwan, youth. I love this kid. I loved him beginning of the season. He's hitting 370 the past 2 weeks. There's a home run, two stolen bases. He's just been getting on base. I mean, this guy's been a machine. I love watching this kid play. He plays a great outfield. He's from California, which is a huge thing in my book. I like him a lot. He plays for the Guardians, and one of my good friends who lives in Cleveland lives there, and he loves the game. He loves this kid. Another guy that we talked about was Dylan Carlson of St. Louis. The past 2 weeks, he's hitting 373, I believe, with 5 RBIs. He's been hitting great for St. Louis, steals bases. He's been hitting. He's just a guy you want to pick up if he's available right now in your league. And then the guy that I talked to in the beginning is Ramil Tapia. You know what this guy's hitting, Ramil? 550 with 12 RBIs the past 2 weeks. 550.
That's pretty good.
With 12 RBI, I mean, just not, and you got to watch out for him. The only suggestion I'll give you, if you pick him up, you got to make sure he's playing that day. Because
he's a platoon guy. Yeah,
he doesn't play every day. I'm not saying you can just put him in there and you just sit back and relax. You can't do that. You got him. You got to 2 hours before the game starts. You make sure he's playing. If he's not, you just switch it up. No big deal. But he is on fire, and we call that a huge streaker. So pick him up immediately.
All right, I love it. Meanwhile, I love that you mentioned the ambassador of Kwan, Stephen Kwan. He's a great pickup, by the way. He's got great plate discipline. And
you live in Cleveland. I mean, I'm sure the press loves him in Cleveland, I imagine.
Absolutely. And, Josh Naylor also we had at first base. He's also a good outfield pickup. But Dylan Carlson, to me, is still the top pickup because he always is putting up really massive value. We have a question coming in, though, on Anthony Santander. Thoughts about him, Case?
Baltimore Orioles. I like him, but it's similar to the reason that Ross doesn't like his Jonathan India pick, because I've watched Santander crush the Yankees this year. Whenever I've watched the Orioles play the Yankees, he seems to be he is very streaky. He's kind of one of those 3 outcome type of players. It seems like he's got power in his bat, but he's got a lot of swing and miss in his bat. When he's hot, though, you can ride his numbers for a couple of weeks and he can help your fantasy team. I don't know if he's somebody to pick up and bank on. He's somebody to pick up if you have room at the end of your bench to put in those times where there's a hot streak or one of your better players has a day off.
Groovy T does make the point, though. He's a switch hitter batting cleanup for the O's, which means, the reason I think you mentioned switch hitter, I would guess, is it means he's going to be on the field a lot. If you got, a righty and he doesn't hit, let's say, righties well, he's not going to be on the field that often. So
I saw him in a huge home run against the Yankees last week. I mean,
thanks.
Huge home run, Casey Scheinfeld.
Thanks for that.
All right, one guy to add, David Peralta, the old wily vet. He's not getting a ton of at-bats, but he has been hitting the ball well for a while. So, especially in daily leagues where you can switch a guy out, I'd be looking at him. Let's move to pitchers.
He always does this when he gets a hit. He always does the train, they call him. It goes like that.
Oh, we can't see you in that shot. We can only see your shoulder moving. Yeah, there you go. There you go. There it is. All right, guys. We're going to move to pitchers. I want to leave some time for trade deadline talk, so we're going to move to pitchers, and we're going to do it really fast. Short starting pitchers. Give me one or two. Casey, let's start with you.
I'll say Cole Irvin, who I mentioned at the top, so I don't have to go over that. And Ranger Suarez for the Phillies has been pitching really well. And he was the closer last year. The long-term plan was for him to be a starter, and he seems to have handled that transition pretty well. The last couple of weeks, he's pitching great.
All right. And Ross?
One of my favorite names, if I had a kid right now being born, I would probably name him this, Cutter Crawford of Boston. His past 2 starts, both 6 innings. I think he gave up under 2 runs in each start. He's 26 years old. He's in the majors for the first time. He looks great. Cutter Crawford, I love a lot. And another guy that we talked about already is George Kirby. We talked about him last week. He pitched last start, 5 innings, gave up no runs. He plays for your Seattle Mariners. So I think maybe Kirby, it's time to pick him up.
All right. I would say Garrett Whitlock. He's got huge, huge potential. He's 54% rostered. He's not going to be on this show long because he's going to go over 60%. Also, a guy that surprised me is Reid Detmers. He keeps pitching well, so I don't trust him a lot, but you can pick him up. Here's another guy, Johnny Cueto, not striking out a lot of guys, and actually Groovy Team mentioned Cueto as well as Aaron Ashby.
Is he still under 60%?
Who, Cueto?
Yeah,
51%.
Wow.
Yep. So these are guys to scoop up. Chris Headwater says, I like Ashby. Groovy T picked him up. Just Bob says, Braxton Garrett again. 2 starts next week. Good matchup. Sometimes you need the 2 starts.
I talked about him already. I like Braxton a lot.
I agree. All right, let's move to relief pitchers. And especially at this trade deadline week, it's important to talk about. Kasey, who do you got?
I like AJ Puck. He's my pick in the Oakland bullpen. Not only does he have really good numbers, but I think he's going to take over the closer role. And Kyle Finnegan in Washington right now seems to be their closer of the moment, and he isn't doing a lot to lose that job. He's got a .43 whip and under a 2 ERA in his last 2 weeks.
The main way that he loses that job is if he gets traded, which it could happen. So pay attention to it. Another guy to mention is Zach Jackson, also on Oakland. I like AJ Puck more, but Zach Jackson is striking out 15 batters per inning. He's striking out a lot of guys. Per inning he pitches, not 15 per inning. He's averaging 15 per
9
at bat, per 9. Thank you for correcting that. He's striking out 15 batters an inning. Pick him up now.
He throws a lot of wild pitches on his third strike.
Now, Just Bob Ross says, Ross, me and you vibing this week. It doesn't happen very often, so let's celebrate it. Chris Atwater says, is Bednar broken and does that hurt his trade potential? I think his trade potential is hurt, but I think that you can still bet on the backup guys in Pittsburgh to take over for him either way.
He's out of Pittsburgh. He'll be traded. I guarantee that. Keep going.
Groovy T says to Chris Atwater, if he can cut down on the walks, he'll be very dominant. They're talking about Ashby again. So any other relievers to add, Ross, before we move to trade deadline?
Trevino, we talked about 3 saves the past 2 weeks. Finnegan, you mentioned. A guy in Seattle, Matt Festa, has 2 saves in the past 2 weeks. His ERA is under 2. I mean, I know they have Castillo's hurt, so he's on the DL right now.
Yes.
And there are other closers getting a lot of works. Seawald, he's getting a lot of work, so they're trying to rest him a little bit.
Yeah, and that was during their 13-game. My concern with Festa is it was in the middle of a 13-game winning streak.
So Matt Festa, I think he'll get some save opportunities here or there, and we got to see what happens next week with all the crazy trades that are going to happen.
Okay, 2 guys to mention just at the back of your roster if you have room. Steve Chiswick. It's such a hard name to pronounce.
Isn't it Cishek?
Cishek. I don't know how to say his name, but pick him up anyway. Listen, if Finnegan gets traded, this guy could easily be next up. Could that guy get traded? Yes. This is a huge wild card situation. We don't really know what's going to happen. Another guy that I would pick up is Joe Mantiple. He's really probably the backup closer in Arizona right now. Who knows what's going to happen? Is he going to get traded? Will the closer get traded? Pick up these guys, especially if you have open roster spots. It's really great to pick up these backup closers. Groovy T mentions I picked up Sir Anthony Dominguez also. Another great pickup. Yep. I love that one. Duran closing games for the Twins right now. Will he get the thing about that is I think the Twins are going to deal for an experienced guy. But if they don't, you got it. All right, guys, let's talk about trade deadline. Oh, Chris Atwater has a comment. We're going to say this first, then we'll talk about trade deadline. Chris Atwater says, Zach Britton coming back in the near future, worth rostering. Quick discussion about that. Case, what do you think?
Well, I think with Chapman looking like he's 470 years old and Michael King being out for the year, I think Britton's going to get every chance to be a late inning guy with the Yankees. But, nobody's taking Clay Holmes' job right now. They're just not. He's pitching too well. So
Clay Holmes is like on a different planet than
if you're in a league that gets you points for holds, that's great. But even in his best, Britton, other than his one phenomenal year in Baltimore, never had a strong whip because he walks a lot of guys. So you always have to be careful with that kind of reliever.
I'm going to say what 10% of our audience is thinking. Is Mama calling Clay? I'm going to call him Clay. Now, Groovy T says, also Tanner Scott has been shaky for Miami. Anthony Bass could step in. There's so many situations like this. Now, let's talk trade deadline. Ross, you've done some prep.
So what I'm going to do is I'll mention a player. You guys give me your insight where you think he's going, and I'll give you the final analysis. Juan Soto, as we know, is going to be a free agent of the year. He turned down a huge contract in Washington. Where do you think he's going, guys?
I don't think he's a free agent at the end of this year. I think it's next year.
Well,
I think
next
he
year,
1.5 years of control.
He's definitely being traded.
So where is he going after the contract, or do you think?
No, he'll get traded. My guess is St. Louis.
Okay,
that's my guess. I think they have such a deep farm system, and putting that in.
That's fine. I'm writing down St. Louis for Kasey Scheinfeld. Dan,
I can never rule out the Yankees. They always do these kinds of things. You think you're already loaded. Meanwhile, the Dodgers are another team that I could see doing.
The problem with the Yankees is they don't trade for those people until they've won 3 MVPs and can no longer do it.
And remember,
spoken like a true Yankees fan. Only you
guys, they want a lot for him. It's not like a player to be named later. It's not going to be that's not part of the trade.
The Yankees, unfortunately, my reason the Yankees won't do it is they need either Montas or Castillo, and they're going to have to use the same prospects to get them that they would have needed to get Soto, and they can't have both. And if they want to win this year, they need a starter.
2 places to mention, though. Groovy T just mentioned it's Soto to San Diego. San Diego has the prospects to get it done, so they could do that.
So San Diego's on my list, San Francisco's on my list, and the Dodgers.
St. Louis has the pieces. Just Bob is saying.
I see him on the West Coast. So
and Chris Atwater says, "Get ready, Soto is going to the A's." But he did add a ha-ha.
Okay, so there's a rumor in Los Angeles, where I live, that Ohtani might be traded. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts about if it's feasible for the Angels to trade the MVP from last year.
They're not going to trade. They're not going to trade him.
Okay,
he sells so many tickets.
You don't think so either? Okay.
Meanwhile, there is one dark horse for Soto, which is the Guardians. They have a new minority owner.
He doesn't want to go to Cleveland. He's the Cleveland. No.
You don't know that.
It's like no, he's not going to Cleveland.
You don't know that.
Bogarts for Boston, supposedly. I heard Boston's going to do a big clearance. Bogarts is he has a contract where he can get out of it next year. He can say, I don't want to play for you guys anymore, and he leaves. So Bogarts supposedly wants to be traded out of Boston. What do you guys think about that?
I think if he goes anywhere, I would guess he's going to go. I don't know. It's funny. My gut instinct was he's going to go to the Dodgers.
They have Trey Turner. No, they're not. It's not the Dodgers.
Listen, I understand that, but the Dodgers will find a place for him. But actually, my number one hunch is the Cardinals. Groovy T said it's either going to be Dodgers, Padres, or Cardinals. So I apparently have done his list pretty well.
Case, Bogarts, go.
I think Cardinals.
I would say Cardinals. I would say dark horse would be San Diego.
Brian Reynolds, we talked about him many times on our show. He's the only Pirates player that I would even consider
Bednar
on my team. Now, him too. We'll get to pitchers. But do you think he'll be traded? Do you think he'll go somewhere? Where do you think he'll go if he does get traded?
He's definitely going to be traded.
I think here's my dark horse for that one. Toronto.
It's a good one.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I like it a lot. Okay.
You know what? Wait, hold on. I'm going to mention a dark horse too. I think the Guardians could trade for him. He's exactly the kind of player.
He is a Guardians type of player. He really is.
Totally.
Very Guardians-like.
I'm going to say a name now, and I just want to see Dan's expression when I say it. Ian Happ.
Ian Happ was traded with Hunter Dozier to someone's team other than Miami.
Ian Happ is going to be traded. He's having a good season, and he's playing really well. And Chicago's going to do Contreras is going to be gone. He's their all-star catcher. He'll be gone out of Chicago. Ian Happ's their other trade guy they're going to trade. Really, do you guys have any thoughts where he'll go? Or do you think?
Well, I think Wilson Contreras is going to the Mets. That's my pick for Contreras. I think Ian Happ is going. I think David Robertson is going to go to the Twins, and I think Ian Happ is going to go to the White Sox.
I didn't get there yet with pitchers, but I agree with you. And we'll go to the last one I want to ask you about. Then we'll go to pitchers. Is Whit Merrifield for Kansas City, free agent, end of the year. He's having a horrible season. Out of all his 7 seasons, this is his worst. 3-time All-Star. Do you think first of all, do you think they'll trade him? And if he does get traded, where do you think he'll go?
I think he'll be traded.
I think he'll be traded, and I think he's a San Diego guy.
Okay.
I feel for some reason, and this is probably weird with Ozzie Albies coming back, but I think the Braves are going to trade for him.
Because he can play some outfield. That's not a bad pick. But I talked earlier about Yuli Guril was not going to be the first baseman for the Astros next week. Josh Bell will be the first baseman for the Astros next week.
I have him on my list to talk about, and I was going to say
they need a left-handed bat. He's a switch hitter. He plays first base. Gurriel has been terrible
at the end of the year too, so it makes total sense. And some of these guys, the reason they're being traded is not because they're not playing well, but because they don't want them in their city. It's just they know that these guys are not going to sign with their team at the end of the year. So what's the point of keeping them? Might as well get something for them during the trade deadline, right, guys?
Right. Absolutely. We have a couple questions rolling in. Ruby T says Contreras to Houston or the Mets. Chris Atwater says JD Martinez. I can see though because he's saying
I think he's gone.
Bogarts. Too. But he thinks Bogart's actually staying for the rest of the season.
I think Bogart stays too.
Yeah, Chris is wondering where will JD Martinez head. I feel like it'll be the Astros, which will be interesting for him to return there. But Just Bob says JD going to the Dodgers.
I could see him on the Twins.
Oh, I like that pick too.
I mean, if he goes to the Dodgers, what position does he play?
Or Seattle. Seattle is a sneaky dark horse wild card team who is missing a big right-handed back. Because I could see Nelson Cruz going back to Seattle, but JD Martinez there would be even better.
Yep.
Okay. Some other guys I think will be traded. We don't have to talk about is Brandon Drury of the Reds, Tyler Naquan of the Reds. I think CJ Chrome of Colorado will probably be traded this year. Just because they can get a lot for him. He's having a really good year. I think they can really benefit of trading him now. And then let's talk pitchers real quick. Castillo's the big top prize of the Reds. Where do you think he's going? And
Yankees.
Case?
Yankees.
As much as I hate to say it, I agree with you, Yankees.
It seems like everybody agrees.
I mean,
there's some questions. Groovy T asked Frankie Montas. Where do we predict him?
Dodgers.
He's not next to my list, actually. Frankie Montas.
He's going to the Dodgers.
I could see Dodgers, but I have a different prediction.
I think Seattle. I say he stays in the division. I bet he goes to Seattle. I think they want to pick up a starter. I think they need another big gun in their repertoire to really make a push.
And I think he's going to get traded to the Mets. And they're just going to load up on
even with DeGrom there. I mean,
yeah, why not? I mean, we mentioned those top two pitchers behind that, not nearly as good. Chris Bassett's pretty good.
Okay, the next guy is having a great season. I mean, and you guys were not convinced until like last month, is Martin Perez of Texas. He's pitching really well. He's a free agent at the end of the year, this guy. So he's definitely gone out of Texas. They want something for him. Where do you think he'll go, Case?
Where would he go? I could see him going to a team like Seattle. I could also see him going maybe to Atlanta because they seem to do well with those sorts of projects.
Reclamation projects.
Pitching. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just had a vision of him in a St. Louis Cardinal uniform. I don't know why.
Could be.
But I just saw the vision. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
Chris Atwater said all the pitchers should go to Boston. We need them. And meanwhile, here's an important point. Chris also said, love Drury. Hope the change of scenery doesn't ruin his year. And a guy like Perez, you've got to remember, yes, they might be pitching well, but if they change scenery, is it going to mess up their year? Really interesting question.
Those are great. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen. Casey, we talked about David Robinson of the not the basketball player.
No, because it's Robertson, not Robinson.
It's a totally different name.
I know that.
Not only is it a different name, it's a totally different person.
So long story short, he's a closer for the Cubs. He's having a great year. His ERA is under 3. He's having an unbelievable year. Everybody needs a better bullpen. Where do you think he'll go?
I said Minnesota.
I think Minnesota's a perfect fit. I mean, they need a top guy to close.
Veteran.
Get all of their other relievers better.
I say Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to make a big run for him. He pitched really well in Dodger Stadium earlier in the year. And
let me give a dark horse, though. Dark horse could be the Atlanta Braves. They have such a good bullpen. I could just see them being like, let's get better. That's the kind of thing the Braves do.
Again, you can stack up with the bullpen. I mean, Houston did it a couple years ago, and it worked.
Guys,
the Yankees have done it for years.
We got to wrap this up. Ross, you want to get in one more?
Noah Scharngard. We call him Thor. Syndergaard.
I'm seeing the Thor movie tonight. Mm-hmm.
That's why I brought it up. So he plays for the Angels. The Angels are 25 games out. So that all being said, where do you think he'll go?
I don't think he's going to be traded.
Really? I disagree. A total 100%. I disagree on that one.
I'll say if he is going to be traded, I feel like it's going to be Toronto. I don't know. They feel.
I say he'll stay in L.A. I say he goes with the Dodgers.
What about?
Also,
I think it would be great for him to be traded to Atlanta and have to pitch in Shea Stadium in the playoff.
That'd be great.
That would be awesome.
I could see it happening. All right, guys, we have to wrap for today. We're going to see how this all unfolds because the trade deadline will be passed by next week when we talk about it. But come back for the waiver wire Thursday, 4:45 p.m. Eastern, 1:45 p.m. Pacific. Put your comments below. We love talking fantasy
and
sports.
And we will talk about who said what. So we're going to hold you to some of those predictions, guys, just so you know.
And thank you for joining us. Just Bob, Groovy T, Chris Atwater. Great comments. Loved all the chatter. Let's keep it up. We'll see you same time next week.
Kill Cliff Octane. New flavor. Laser Lemon. Plus 125 milligrams of clean caffeine. No sugar.
25 milligrams of CBD.
Meow available at KillCliff.com.